Hello and welcome to the Music 101 interview podcast. I'm Charlotte Ryan. This week on Music 101, we pay tribute to the wonderful Martin Phillipps, founder of the Chills. When the very sad news came in this week that Martin Phillipps had died, many of us were quite shocked and surprised and deeply, deeply sad. Martin was a fantastic musician. Born in Milton, he lived for 61 years. He's known internationally for his incredible music talent and art of songwriting. But if you've ever heard of that term, the Dunedin sound, he was one of the musicians that created that much debated term to describe the guitar sound that was so original at its time. Martin and his songs have influenced so many bands internationally. And we had heard Martin was sick recently. In fact, he spoke very openly, as you'll hear in this interview. He's always spoken very openly about his health for years. It's slightly weird listening back to these conversations that I had with Martin and him speaking about how he sees himself in this life. There have been so many tributes over the last week, and I wanted to share these interviews so you can sort of get a sense of who he was and how he saw himself. He had a very good sense of humour. It actually took me a couple of years to pick that up. I thought he was very blunt, but it turns out he's quite dry. Anyway, he will be missed, sending so much love to Martin Phillipps' family and friends. Here is an interview that I did with Martin Phillipps in 2021. We'd just come out of COVID, he was touring again, and he was very well.
My health is still much better. I think it's having cleared the Hep C. Yeah, so that's been good. But I think that I became aware that even though I had more energy, I am still sort of, I guess, comparatively depleted compared to other people. So I just have to take it a wee bit careful.
You do. And even when you announced your tour, I did think, do you have to think about, how much pressure to put on yourself?
Yeah, we were particularly nervous when we did the American tour was it last year or the year before now? That was the first big run of shows, and we didn't know how I was going to handle it and how my voice was going to handle it, and got through fine. And we did 4 shows between Christmas and New Year, just because we hadn't played for 9 months during lockdown and everything. And that was kind of just to warm us up, but also just check on me again, and went fine. It was good. So what we're doing on this tour is basically 5 weekends of shows. So we try and make it never more than 3, maximum 4 in a row for me. And then
in between shows you go home or go wherever and just rest and recover.
Well, we can in New Zealand, obviously, but on an overseas tour, it means really having to schedule in at least a good day off, and we insist that is not a 10-hour travel day, because that's cheating.
Is that still in the back of your mind to tour again in America?
Well, it kind of has to be. It was always our biggest market, and especially on the back of the last tour, things were looking really good. We were meant to have done a 30-day tour in November, and obviously that fell through. And we just have to keep an eye on what those crazy Americans are up to, because a heated rock music venue is probably the number one place to spread a virus if you're that way inclined. So yeah, we keep an eye on it. But yeah, I'll tell you frankly, it was quite a knockback, because this is kind of like the Chills' third opportunity, third sort of renaissance, and it was going well, and all of a sudden it's kind of like, oh, okay, right, that's over. But largely I felt sorry for the younger artists. So I tried to keep in touch with quite a few during the lockdown in particular, because it's different for us. We've got a small but solid fan base around the world, but a lot of people here were just starting to build that and build a following, and just get into that real joyous phase of just romping around the world doing shows. And all of a sudden, it wasn't hard to sense a lot of pretty serious depression out there in the music community. So
you briefly spoke about Snowbound and the sort of massive success of Snowbound, and then the even bigger success of the Chills, the triumph and tragedy of Martin Phillipps, the film, the documentary that was made about you. And it really there was so much momentum for you and the band, and those international touring dates, and then of course COVID hit. And before we all went into lockdown, you were recording your 7th studio album called Scatterbrain. Tell me, where was your headspace when you started writing Scatterbrain?
My brain was rather scattered. I think it was kind of, I'd started writing a bunch of songs, and I just became aware that they were kind of, I don't know, telling people to watch out for consumerism or just sort of this kind of pointless stuff. A couple of people just out of the blue made the comment, the stuff that registers the most of mine is when it's personal, because if I reflect on my own life, there's enough other people who register with what I'm talking about. And there had been quite a lot going on, and so I just started sort of working in that kind of direction. Kind of the confusion of getting old when you live alone, all sorts of angles, and facing mortality when I've been through, that period of having to face up to maybe not being around for that long, all those kind of things. But strangely enough, it was all written and pretty much completed pre-COVID. But there are things on there, like there's a song, Safe and Sound, about staying home, which was meant to be kind of creepy. And it became the perfect kind of background music for going quietly mad at home. It was good.
I guess with what you've had to go through and the sort of reflection of mortality, or the fear of mortality, or the potential mortality in a sense, did you do self-reflection and look at yourself where you are now and over the years and where you've been?
Yeah, most certainly, and probably a lot of that was inspired, shall we say, by seeing the Chills documentary, because I had not sort of seen how, well, basically odd I was and how that impacted on other people. And that gave me a lot of cause for, reconsidering things that had happened in the past and so on. I know that I'm not a hurtful person by nature, but realising that just the sheer being unaware of people's situations around me could also be hurtful. That was quite a revelation, really. So, that sort of changed things a bit.
When you said odd behaviour, are you talking about your own odd behaviour?
Yeah, well, I hadn't realised quite how eccentric I was, with my weird collecting and, I guess not everybody spray paints dead cats fluorescent colours and puts them on the wall, but I didn't think it was that odd. And being in the audiences at various premieres around the world, actually about 4 of them, and hearing people laugh at certain points, it was kind of just got a pretty, I guess a pretty clear view of some of these things as seen from outside, which is quite a privilege in a way. It's going to be able to see that.
It is a privilege, but I imagine it can be quite confronting as well.
Well, I said right from the start with the movie that I wasn't going to interfere unless it was really factually inaccurate. But of course they had to have a narrative, and the narrative didn't include me saying, oh yeah, but that person who's saying that, they did this to me, or, I could have done that with many people, but it just seems so pointless. It's so long ago. Everyone's grown up. Everyone's learnt from what we did when we were very young. So, yeah, it's still an eye-opener, though.
Yeah, I bet. Do you think that you have changed as a person then since that experience?
Well, in the sense that I think we're always ever changing anyway, but perhaps I have been a wee bit more careful about just what I say and do, I think, since then. I used to kind of sort of just let fly with jokes that are no longer really particularly funny and things like that. So, I don't know. I've definitely learned from it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Martin. I hope you still continue to spray paint cats because that's what makes you wonderful.
Well, I don't think that's an area of art I'll go back to, but thank you for the encouragement. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to share about Destiny, the newest single that's just come out?
Well, that's the main one when I talk about mortality and facing up to it. It's about a wee bit of a struggle with how much of this is pre-planned and how much is me shaping my own destiny, and that kind of thing. So it seems to have done really well. I think a lot of people have been going through those same kind of questions, particularly overseas, where it's like they're still in lockdown, and they must be thinking, a lot of them, what did I do to deserve this, or what have we done, And there are a lot of questions. I bet a lot of people are kind of questioning religious aspects of their nature because of this as well.
Do you talk to your fans about deep matters like that, or friends overseas?
Some friends I do overseas, but I try I used to engage a lot more with fans. Yeah, then you start attracting some odd people, so you have to be a wee bit careful, very careful with the wording of things. So I don't tend to engage quite as much. Just try and be encouraging and say thank you. But sometimes people have a sad story that they want to share and how your music helped, and that's really the bottom line for me is the music having reached out that much. So I certainly don't ignore them, and that's important.
I wondered this as well when I worked with Neil, because sometimes he would also get emails from fans that I'd read before they got to him. And sometimes the stories of people connecting with your music, they are, if I could be so blunt, they're horribly sad stories. For you to receive an email like that, about someone who's died or, was in a terrible headspace and you sort of saved them, is that a weight that you take on?
It's funny you should mention Neil, because I actually talked to him about this recently when I'd had a couple of crazy fans. I said, how far do you go with dialogue? And he said basically what I said, just try to be thankful but not go too far.
Yeah.
I don't take on the weight of the sad stories. I think in a way, again, it's a privilege to have people who are prepared to kind of open their hearts to you like this. There's one I should mention. It used to be a bunch of guys in New Zealand who followed us around in the 80s. They turned up at every show, and we didn't realise for a while that they were travelling around the country on their own pocket money and paying to get the shows. So we started putting their names on the guest list. Eventually I noticed there weren't 4, there were 3, and it took some time to hear the story that one of them had slowly died of leukemia, coincidentally, as did our drummer Martin Ball. But apparently he was sort of in the coma for a long time, and everyone, including his family, thought, this is taking too long. So they brought in a ghetto blaster at the time and put on the song Submarine Bells, and apparently he opened his eyes and sat up briefly and then lay down and died.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the more extraordinary stories of the impact of the music. It's to help somebody on their way like that.
You're heading out on the Scatterbrain tour in April and May, playing all sorts of fantastic venues. You're playing at Larnach Castle. Have you played there before?
No, we never have, and I never actually got out to the legendary debauched balls out there. I think they're the head, what are they called, the head balls or something? I think that sounds right. Wrong. Yeah. And Toy Love played out there at some point, and I missed that. But it's they've got the place looking so beautiful now. It's fantastic. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. One thing I should mention, this with the album, we came to within 4 days of completing it before lockdown, and Tom Healy, the producer, had basically caught the last seat on the last flight back to Auckland. Otherwise, he would have been stuck down here. But it gave us some months to really sort of send sound files back and forth and work on it, which in the long run has really paid off, because everyone who's heard it is saying it's the best produced record we've done, and it's possibly the best thing we've done since Submarine Bells, which is a big compliment.
It is, because Snowbound was received so well. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what people think. I mean, there was an earlier, it wasn't announced as a single, but You're Immortal was the first song released off the album as well. So that's been out and about for a while.
Oh, Martin Phillipps, thank you so much for talking, and take care. Is it cold down in Dunedin?
These last couple of days have been the first real autumn drizzly days, but it's still at that autumn phase where it smells nice, so it's good.
You're listening to the Music 101 interview podcast. This now is my second interview that I did with Martin Phillipps in 2022. Are you still loving living in Dunedin as much as you always have?
Yes. I think as I get older, the cold, apparently it does get cold here occasionally, and I feel it more. But it's a great place, a great creative place to come back to. So, I really enjoy it.
And and there seems to be, I mean, I know I always say this about Dunedin and also about Christchurch, but there seems to be a really cool, exciting music scene down there. Lots of new bands, lots of sort of cool sounds.
Yeah, there are. I think I'm not keeping up with it. I'm not going out as much as I was, just watching out for my hearing and COVID and so on. Excuse me. But there are just endless bands turning up, and the Crown Hotel down here has a live feed that you can sort of watch in and see what's happening. And yeah. it's bubbling away very nicely down here,
Oh,
and
really?
not just music, all sorts of arts. It's good.
You can tune in. Did you say you can tune into the Crown and watch the live shows?
Yeah, they've got a fixed camera, and Mike's off the desk, I think, and a fixed camera above the bar. So um,
If you can't make it there,
most
yeah.
nights, yeah, it's great.
The Crown's actually been in the news quite a bit recently because there's possibility of apartments being built around it.
Yeah, it's happened here before, obviously, and everywhere else as well. It's a vacant bit of property, but unless it's spelled out right from the start that you're building next door to a live venue, then we lose another live venue as soon as somebody complains. So, and there aren't that many left, particularly of the right numbers. So, the right capacity. Sorry. So it is getting quite concerning. I mean, I'm old enough to have seen this come and go. You know, sort of the live scene versus, say, in the old days, jukebox even.
Mm-hmm.
But now a lot of the potential venues have gone forever, and it's getting a bit more nerve-wracking as to what can possibly happen.
Because on the 13th of October, you're playing Dive in Dunedin. What's that venue like?
Dive is the new name for the Captain Cook Hotel, which
Oh,
has been around for
right.
forever. I guess that's what they call the venue part upstairs now. Um, so yeah, that's a legendary medium-sized venue. Well, medium once you cram a lot of people in, that's good. Uh, it was where certainly I played. I think some of my first gigs in my early band, the same back in the late '70s, supporting Toy Love and that sort of thing down there. So it's been crucial. So yeah, back to the Dive is a good start for a long tour, actually.
I know. So you're doing 2 New Zealand dates, and I guess they're kind of warm-up dates. Dive in Dunedin on the 13th of October, then Loons in Littleton the 14th of October. But then you take off to America, and you're doing a huge tour there. How many dates?
I think it's about 25 in just over a month. It's about 5 weeks, so it's going to be pretty intense. I think it's probably the biggest tour I've undertaken since I was in my 20s. So everyone's watching out for old Uncle Martin, make sure he's in good health.
Well, to be honest, Uncle Martin,
But
I was going to come in and say, that sounds like a lot of dates. Are you going to be looking after yourself? Yeah.
yeah, totally. We're actually really good at that now. I mean, we don't waste money on luxury accommodation, but we make sure that people are safe and comfortable and have time apart. We eat well, we buy good food, avoid the takeaways, just sort of basic things. But we're a good band for just watching out for each other and yeah, taking care. So I think we'll be fine. And there's a lot of driving, but in some ways that's preferable to the internal flights within America that we did last time because they're so stressful now. You have to go through the entire process every time. Yeah, as you'd imagine.
Oh, so you get to see, I mean, driving can be exhausting, but I just would love to see the views because you're going all over the place. Toronto, Chicago, Minneapolis, Denver, Seattle, San Francisco, LA, Austin, Nashville. It's going to be amazing, the land you'll see.
Yeah, I think so. It's the one thing in the van that is different to the old days is that everyone's got the little iPods in, they're looking at their phones, and all of a sudden you're driving past something amazing, some bit of Americana, and you have to tap somebody on the shoulder, and they're sick of being tapped on the shoulder. So people miss these wonderful things. Well, they're snoozing, because we're going to be pretty tired as well. But at the same time, there are some really good apps now where you can share with other bands great sort of historical sites or good restaurants to watch out for. All sorts of things. So I'm hoping to get into that and just make sure that we're aware of some of the history, some of the places we'll be driving through.
Oh, that's so special because I can imagine, once you're on the road, you sort of get in this headspace, and you forget to smell the flowers, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think there can be an assumption that we'll be back again, but you never quite know that these days. So.
Because we were, we were talking about you playing, back in, is it called the Mount Cook? Sorry, the hotel.
The Captain Cook Hotel.
Yeah. We were talking about you playing in the Captain Cook Hotel, and that's sort of bringing back so many memories from the 70s. Does it bring back memories travelling to America? Because you spent a bit of time there in the 90s, didn't you, with Chills?
Yeah, well, late 80s, 90s, we toured there quite extensively for a while. So when we first went back a few years back, and then, what is it now, 2019, we did our first proper tour since the early 90s. I was frankly a bit nervous about going back because I had all these memories of being a younger person with a completely different band. But one of my band members said to me, "Don't worry about the old memories, create some new ones." And that was some of the best words of wisdom I think I'd heard. And that's exactly what we did. We just, it's great to share these things. And also, both America and Europe, they're so different to how they were, three decades ago. So there's always new stuff to be seen. It's great.
Of course. I don't know if you'll get, you're going to be on a tight schedule this tour, but will you have a little break at the end over there or anything?
Yeah, a couple of us are staying on. I'm staying on for an extra 3 or 4 days just to catch up with friends, because it's a loop till we start in New York and end up back in New York, having pretty much gone around the whole country, a big circle around the country. And we've got some good friends here now, and it'd be a real shame to not get some quality time to catch up.
Oh, totally.
So looking forward to that.
What's it like? Is there a difference between New Zealand audiences and American audiences for you as a performer?
All sorts of little things. I guess, remember, for Americans of my age, a lot of them grew up hearing the Chills for the first time, along with a lot of independent New Zealand music flying down and further on the college radio network. And that is a much bigger deal than it is here. Those college radio stations are every bit the equal of some of our major stations here. So there was a lot known about us, and that meant they knew more songs. It was a bit more exotic, these strange people coming from New Zealand with accents they didn't quite understand, but they saw we were friendly and embraced us. And so it's quite a different thing. In New Zealand, we're known for a handful of songs, but particularly I love My Leather Jacket in New Zealand. And so you can sort of feel like outside of the real close-knit group of fans, it can be a bit of a greatest hits package. So it's nice to go out where people know your entire catalogue and sing along. It's just bizarre.
Isn't that amazing that happens and that reaction happens not in your home country?
Oh, I guess I sold ourselves a little bit short there, because it does happen here as well. But I guess the novelty is that it's happening in the United States or in Germany or somewhere, and it still surprises me. I've just come off doing a nearly 2-hour Twitter that was organised in Britain, but I noticed there were people listening in. They were basically playing the 2 Warner Brothers albums we did, Submarine Bells and Soft Bomb, and I was making comments about the songs. And I saw people in Rio de Janeiro and in Switzerland and in Ireland, and all of them making comments, lots in America. I think we're very fortunate that this far into our career, 42 years, we've got this international following, and they really care about us, and that's great.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. You're such a collector. As we saw in the film, you're such a collector, which I love. You treasure memories and things of your past. And your house sort of looks like a museum in some parts. Do you keep a tour diary when you're overseas?
Not a proper one anymore. I make sure that on my calendar app, I put in as much detail as possible. But I used to write a proper diary. I kept that up, luckily, through most of the Chills' early career, and that's one of the big projects in terms of my archivist tendencies is to actually transcribe that and put it in some sort of context.
Oh, wow.
The first time I took a diary through to England, the customs guy opened up and started reading, and I started to think about what I'd actually written in that diary that might be of interest to a customs person. So from then on, I wrote in a kind of a scribble that nobody else can read except me. So I'm going to have to get some sort of translating computer to help me get through it.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so true. It's funny with diaries, though, isn't it? Because you want to write such personal things, but anyone could go hunting through your room and find them. And I guess, when we pass, people might find our old diaries.
Yeah, and I'm horrified at what I wrote about friends and band members back in the old days, because it would be late at night. We've probably all done a gig, gone and had a few drinks, and I basically just vent my spleen about, ridiculous little things that happen during the day, and it gives a completely wrong impression of how I was actually feeling at the time. It's quite embarrassing, really, but, you're young and you're not quite aware that how these things are going to read quarter of a century down the track.
I know. Do you feel that way about some of the songs that you've written or lyrics? And there's no innuendo in that. I'm sort of just thinking off the top of my head.
Oh, totally. And there are pros and cons to that too, because I can look back at some of the things I wrote when I was young and think I'm really impressed by that young person being so either creative or just really honest. But at the same time, some of it is just self-obsessed kind of maudlin, feeling sorry for yourself, just the usual adolescent kind of things that you go through. Why she left me, nobody understands me, all that stuff. But at least there are good melodies.
Yeah, totally. So, Martin, you're heading off to America soon. 2 dates in New Zealand to head you off. And then when you come back, will you be back in New Zealand before Christmas? Yes.
Most of us, but not enough to play, unfortunately. So it's looking like there'll be some dates possibly in Australia early in the new year, and we'll definitely do some more New Zealand dates before we go. Because it annoys me when we go and do these great tours and the band comes back so tight, but we don't get to show off to New Zealand what we've become, and it's happening.
You do sometimes,
again, so.
Yeah. Last time I saw you guys play, and gosh, I can't even remember where it was. I feel like it was an outdoors show. You guys were so tight and amazing. Everyone was just blown away. Because, it's still I know we talk about this every time, but you're still playing with the same members that you've, had for ages.
Well, 23 years for Todd, the drummer, and I've lost 2 members in the last 23 years, and they were both bass players. So, it's not too bad. That's well over half the Chills history is now pretty much the one band. And if you thought we were tight then, it's just things with Callum Hampton, the new bass player, and his vocal skills, backing vocals, just there's a new breath of fresh air in the band, and it's really powerful. It's going to be really exciting touring.
And just finally, Martin, is there new writing on the go too? Your last album, Scatterbrain, was released just only last year, so no pressure, but are you writing again?
I'm always writing bits and pieces, but what we're actually doing at the moment is, because the Chills were formed in 1980, the first album didn't come out until 87, there's about 3 albums worth of unrecorded material from those early years. And what we're doing at the moment is demoing those to basically put together, say, a good double album of unreleased Chills classics. So we're sort of taking a little break from the new material, just long enough to do that. And that's going to be really exciting, because old Chills fans, they'll know instantly some of the songs I'm talking about that never got recorded, and they've always wanted to hear them. So it's going to happen.
Incredible. That's really exciting. Well, actually, speaking of that, Andre Upston, our sound engineer here, he just ran in before and said, are you talking to Martin? And I said, yes. And he said, can you please ask him, when is the new remastered Brave Words coming out?
And, well, also not just remastered, but actually remixed. Greg Haver did a proper remix. I've always thought that album needed it. And really, you should hear it. It's just like, it's like if taking a layer of blankets off something and it's finally revealed. And it's there's a side of outtakes and B-sides and things, and we're putting together a side of some of the live radio shows we did in Europe, etc.
Oh, amazing.
The cover art's underway. It's nearly there, and so sometime next year it'll be finally out. I've been trying to get this done for nearly 20 years, so I'm pretty excited about that too.
Oh my gosh, well, you've got some, loyal fans out there very excited. Well, Martin, safe travels, and let's catch up when you're back from America. I can't wait. And make sure you take lots of photos and eat lots of delicious food.
And vitamin C. Thank you. Yeah.
Good call. Thank you so much, Martin. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. See you.
That wraps up another Music 101 interview podcast for another week. I was speaking with Martin Phillipps, the legend, the founder of the brilliant band The Chills, and the wonderful human who sadly died this week. I must encourage you to go and listen to some of Martin Phillipps or Chills' recent albums. Silver Bullets, I love Scatterbrain, you would have heard him talking about in that first interview. You must listen to Scatterbrain, it's so good. Also, of course, I love My Leather Jacket, Pink Frost, Heavenly Pop Hit, all those great early songs. But if you haven't already, I do encourage you to go see the documentary on Martin Phillipps. It's called The Triumph and Tragedy of Martin Phillipps. It's screening now for free for the next couple of months. But I hope you enjoy the documentary, and make sure you tune in to Music 101 every Saturday from 1 p.m. on RNZ National to hear more music and more music interviews. And make sure you follow this podcast, Music 101 Interviews. And if you want, forward it to a couple of your friends too.